Hello again. Well, today I want to show you something I bought recently at a car boot sale. It's a Marx Toys My Record Player, and to be honest, I was very pleased to find this. I've been after something like this for a while, and basically on the front there's a picture of a boy and a girl playing with a record player, and it says plays real 78 RPM records, automatic on-off action, battery saving, speed control, battery operated. And then in black it says records not included, but we'll get to that in a moment. So quick look inside the box, and actually in the box there are actually some records, and these are actually Marx Toys ones as well, but I think these were added by a previous owner, and these two are actually branded My Record, top quality records for use with My Record Player or any gramophone. And actually when I look more closely on the box, it does actually say with a sticker there, record player with 2 records, or W/2 records. So presumably the manufacturer decided at some point to actually put in some records, probably to make it sell a bit better. Now, age-wise, I think this dates to probably the mid-1970s based on the pictures, although it's quite clear that from looking on the internet that these sort of machines were around certainly before that, with different box art. So anyway, little set of instructions. A tone arm, and it doesn't take much to tell that that's not really a record player tone arm, that's far more a gramophone tone arm, and a turntable. Now there are also a little packet of needles, because this seems to take standard gramophone needles. Now I've no idea whether these were original or whether they were added by a later owner. Anyway, put the box to one side for the moment. So, what do we got? Well, there's a turntable here. This actually pops off. In fact, there's the motor's down there. So if I sort of push that motor in a little bit, this should actually pop off. There we go. And you can see there's a battery compartment inside, and actually it did come with a couple of batteries, and curiously enough these are dated 2017, so it looks like somebody did try to use it fairly recently. And it's also interesting it runs off one battery, because actually the batteries are connected in parallel. So basically it's a 1.5 volt motor, and you can see the motor going around there. So if I connect the turntable up again, we've got off, on, and then fast. And now it's not supposed to be going around unless the tone arm is in the correct position. So anyway, let's first of all actually do a quick speed test. So I have checked these batteries, and they do seem to be about the right voltage. They're just over 1.5 volts each. I'm going to use my homebrew speed tester, I showed in a previous video. I've actually just changed the resistors on here. I'm just fed up with just how dim the display is, so I've put lower value resistors on. We'll see whether that helps. Anyway, let's turn it on. So sort of on normal speed. It's showing about 63 RPM. Put it onto fast. it's managing about 71 RPM, which is a bit on the low side. Right, okay, so I have actually fitted a new needle. Well, I say new, it's actually a used needle because the records are vinyl, and it probably doesn't hurt to have a slightly blunter needle. Anyway, let's put that in like so. Needle goes into a needle rest, and let's try a record. Now these say use any needle, play on any gramophone. So although it looks like I'm just about to chew up a piece of vinyl on a gramophone, it's actually designed to be used like this. Right, let's see if it wants to go. Okay, so hopefully you could see there that with the weight of the tone arm on, it's actually not playing desperately well. In fact, I'll just demonstrate the auto on off. We actually turn that on, moving it out like that turns it on, moving it back turns it off. That's something to do with the that's something to do with this bit here. It activates some sort of switch mechanism under here. I've not had the back off this, so I don't quite know what's going on underneath, but it must be fairly simple. Anyway, hopefully you can see that there's a bit of a speed problem. Now we'll try fresher batteries, but I'm also going to see if there's anything else I can do to actually get it to work a bit better, because although it does work, it's not working the way it was designed to work. Well, I've had a hunt around, but no great surprise, I don't have any more of these D size batteries. Now, fun fact, apparently these go back to 1898 and were originally designed for torches or flashlights. Anyway, what I have got though is some shells, and these are the same size as the D batteries, but they take an AA, and these are brand new, or at least unused alkalines. So let's try a pair of these. Just while I'm got it open again, the motor is actually on a sort of hinge, so it pivots back and forth, and just has a sort of rubber tip on it. So you have to catch that under the edge of the turntable bit itself when you put it back on. I presume they thought that parents would be doing most of the battery changing. Anyway, let's see if it wants to go with those. Certainly runs. Let's try a record. These don't actually have any dates on them, but interestingly enough, the My Record Player ones are actually dated 1974. So that again leads me to think that this particular example is at least 1974, if not a little bit later. Now, kiddie records do go back quite a bit further, right back into the 1920s, and I've got a few examples of those, so I may show those in a later video. Anyway, so that's going to be fine. Let's do a speed test while we're here. So, on the face of it, that was showing at 72 RPM. So, with fresh batteries, this thing does just about work, and it didn't sound too bad. Now, whilst playing around with it with the batteries, it occurred to me there was actually enough room, sort of this side underneath the platter, for some wires to come out. So I thought it might be worth running it off a bench power supply. So I've connected up bench power supply over here, set for, well, at the minute it's 0.46 volts, so it's not enough to run, but going through this multimeter here and into the connectors here, and because the batteries are wired in parallel, it just so happens that it's easier to use one connector on one and one connector on the other. So if I actually put the platter back on, and the tone arm, now if we turn the voltage up to about 1.5 volts, somewhere about there, obviously right. Something not working right there. Right, so that's quite interesting. Set the voltage down to 1.5 volts. Now it's not running actually, and if I turn it on, it struggles, and I basically have to put the voltage up a little bit more before it starts turning. And if I turn it off, you can see that it actually requires about 2 volts. Let's just ignore that for the moment and actually just put the platter back on. Not really sure whether to call this a platter or a turntable. Seem to vary. If I turn it on now, you can see immediately the voltage drops off. Increase it up a little bit. Definitely likes a little bit more than the 1.5 volts that it's supposed to get. hopefully you can see what was going on there. Basically, I can adjust the speed with this. I can adjust the speed on the power supply over here. But I did get it to about 78, 80 RPM. So it's clearly capable of doing it. It may just be that the batteries need to be like really fresh and really chunky. I mean, these batteries here obviously contain a lot more power when they're new than just these, but actually the AAs did pretty well. But you can see that it did need just a bit extra power to get going, and it might be that actually if I lubricate the bearing on the motor, I've been a bit loath to do that so far, just in case I completely stuff it. It may be that opening it up and cleaning out the mechanism in here might improve things. There might just be poor contact under there somewhere. It might also be that this bearing here, which is just plain plastic on a not particularly smooth steel or aluminium shaft there, could be cleaned and greased, and that might help too, or probably would help, but maybe not very much. So there you go. Essentially it does work. Now from my point of view, great find, because it's a miniature gramophone. I'm sure there's lots of people out there going, for goodness sake, don't put a record on that thing. That's just terrible. Yeah, it is sort of terrible for records which matter, but for records which don't matter, or just for a bit of fun, it's fine. And you know, bear in mind, these things, they were designed to be played on this equipment. I mean, it does say on the back, use any needle, play on any gramophone. You know, how bad can it be? Well, I didn't want to leave without playing just one last record. Now, the instructions do mention that only 5 and 6 inch records should be played. I do actually have some vintage ones of that sort of size, children's ones. However, I also have this record here. Now, this is a 7 inch record, and it's not a 7 inch vinyl. It is actually a proper Bakelite record, and it would be a great find for my collection if it wasn't bust. And I got this just like this only the other day. It's a real shame, because I collect Victory records, and I don't have this one. But anyway, let's put it on the turntable and see how well it goes. Well, that's pretty it. So, it didn't sound great, and to be honest, I don't know what that record really does sound like, because I don't have another copy. But it just goes to show that a 1920s 7 inch Bakelite record or shellac record does actually play just fine on this, if it's in good order and the motor can be made to turn at the right speed. Okay, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Mr. RG Stuff.